जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna and welcome back, and thank you for joining. Today onwards we'll start discussing chapter number 2 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and the chapter is titled as Contents of the Gita Summarized. So we'll discuss the first verse, which is spoken by Sanjaya. So the Sanskrit is Sanjaya Vacha Tam Tatha Kripaya Vistam Ashru Kulekshamam Vishadantam Idam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudanaha. So the first verse of chapter number 2 begins with Sanjaya Vacha. So how come Sanjaya is speaking here? So this is continuation of the last chapter, chapter number 1. So we have discussed the last verse of chapter number 1, which is verse number 46. And we discussed that Sanjaya was speaking that verse. And this is continuation of what Sanjaya is speaking. Hence it begins with Sanjaya Vacha. So Sanjaya in the last verse describes that Arjuna has put aside his bow and arrow and he sat down on the chariot, saying that he doesn't want to fight. So this is what Sanjaya is narrating to Dhritarashtra in Hastinapur. So this is all going on in Hastinapur. So right now in this verse, the translation is, Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana, Krishna, spoke the following words. So let's go into the details of the Sanskrit. So tam tatha kripaya vishtam. So Arjuna, who is overwhelmed with compassion. So what is the effect of that? Ashru purna kulek shamam. Ashru purna kulek shamam means his eyes are full of tears and is completely broken in a broken down state. And the word for lamentation is the next word, which is Vishidantam. Vishidantam is lamenting. Arjuna is lamenting. And then from here, Idam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudana. So this statement actually breaks here, and Idam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudana, meaning having heard Arjuna saying so many or giving so many reasons why he doesn't want to fight, and seeing Arjuna lamenting, full of compassion and his eyes filled with tears, what did Lord Krishna do? So he started speaking. So idam vakyam uvacha. Uvacha means spoke or said. Who said? Madhusudana. Madhusudana is the name of Krishna. So Krishna started speaking. It is very hard to even imagine a great powerful warrior like Arjuna and what a material nature can do to even such a great personality like Arjuna. At this point in time, Arjuna is going through unimaginable conditions. His eyes is brimming with tears, his Gandiva bow has already slipped from his hand. So this is the same Arjuna who defeated so many warriors like Lord Shiva and other great warriors. So we can see here that what material world or material nature can do to any living entity. So that's why, we have to be really careful. So this material nature can even entangle such a great soul like Arjuna. So when Sanjaya is narrating all this to Dhritarashtra, so Dhritarashtra seemed to be very happy. So Dhritarashtra is thinking that this is what was expected because of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So in the chapter 1, Dhritarashtra begins with the verse Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre. So Kurukshetra he calls as Dharma Kshetra. So it's a holy place, it's a place of pilgrimage. And the places of pilgrimage will have effect on the mind of people who are present in those places. So if the Pandavas backed off, so now when the Pandavas are backing off, he is thinking that Arjuna is going to back off. By seeing the reactions or by hearing the reactions of Arjuna from Sanjaya, he is thinking that Arjuna's or the Pandavas is going to back off, and that's the most ideal situation. And it's an easy victory for the Kauravas. And then Dhritarashtra can remain as the king for a long, long time. So Sanjaya, noticing the mood of Dhritarashtra, he's seeing that Dhritarashtra is becoming happy. And he wanted to convey to Dhritarashtra that don't be so hopeful. Why? Because Uvacha Madhusudana. Uvacha means now Madhusudana is going to speak. So who is Madhusudana? Madhusudana is Krishna. So this Madhusudana word is a combination of two words, Madhu and Sudana. So Lord Krishna actually killed a demon named Madhu. And it is expected that Lord is going to kill the demon of confusion, or the demon of doubts, and the demon of ignorance which is in the heart of Arjuna. So Madhusudana is going to speak, and his word will be nectarian like honey. So the words which is going to be spoken by the Lord from his lotus mouth, this is going to be transcendental knowledge. And this is the subject matter of Bhagavad Gita. So after hearing the subject matter of Bhagavad Gita, all the doubts, the demon-like doubts, will be removed. All the ignorance which is in the heart of Arjuna is going to be removed by Lord Shri Krishna. So let's see what Srila Prabhupada discusses in the purport. So in the purport, the first the first point what Prabhupada brings in is what is self-realization. Right? What is self-realization? So Prabhupada says that material compassion, lamentation and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. So these things, compassion, lamentation and tears, Prabhupada is saying, is the sign. These are the signs. This is an indication that the person is ignorant. The person who is showing all this sign is ignorant of the soul, the conception of soul. So compassion for eternal soul is self-realization. So these words are like, these lines are like sutra, and it's filled with meaning. So compassion for the eternal soul is self-realization. So the word which is there in the verse is kripaya, compassion. So there are two words, kripa and daya. So this was also discussed in the first chapter in verse number 27. So here in the verse 27, the word for compassion which is used is kripaya paraya visto. Kripaya paraya visto means high grade. Paraya means high grade. High grade and kripaya means compassion, and avista. Kripaya paraya avista is overwhelmed. So Arjuna was overwhelmed with compassion. So when Krishna took the chariot in the middle of the battlefield, after seeing his relatives, the heart of Arjuna was filled with compassion. So there we discussed these two terms, kripa and daya. So kripa is compassion for specific people, and daya is mercy, and that is in general. So here this kripa was actually directed towards specific people in the battlefield, and those were his grandfather and his teacher, which is Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya. So Arjuna was most affected by seeing them, because he was very close to both these personalities. So just by seeing them, his heart was filled with or overwhelmed with compassion. Then Prabhupada talks about the meaning of Madhusudana. Madhusudana meaning is given here. The word Madhusudana is significant in this verse. Lord Krishna killed the demon Madhu, and now Arjuna wanted Krishna to kill the demon of misunderstanding that had overtaken him in the discharge of his duty. So Arjuna had this problem that he in one hand he has to perform his duty, and his duty as a Kshatriya is to re-establish the dharma. But on the other side, by seeing his relative, and understanding that at the end of the war, these personalities will not be there anymore. So, having this thought in the mind, his mind was really overwhelmed with compassion. So then Prabhupada explains what is real compassion. So, real compassion, the compassion which is shown by Arjuna, is it not compassion? So, no, it is not. That's why Prabhupada is going to explain what is real compassion. So, Prabhupada says that no one knows where compassion should be applied. No one knows means somebody who doesn't have spiritual knowledge, they don't know where the compassion should be allowed or should be done or should be applied actually. So, compassion for the dress of a drowning man is senseless. So, it's a very important statement. Prabhupada is saying, compassion for a dress of a drowning man is senseless. So, what does it mean? So, let's understand this particular line because it has got a very deep meaning. So, just as if somebody is drowning in a lake or in some water body like ocean or somewhere, and we know swimming, and then we go and then jump into the water and try to save that person, and let's say we were able to go near the person, but instead of saving the person, we just save the jacket of that person and bring back the jacket of that person or the cloth of that person. So how foolish it would be to just save the jacket of the man, right? In the same way, we all are actually drowning in the material ocean. In the material ocean, which is called as Bhavasagara. So, then there in this world, we find many people who are trying to help the person who is actually drowning in this material world, who is going through all kind of issues. So, other people who watch this, that they are actually suffering in this world. So, out of many people in this world, there are few people, or there are actually a lot of people in this world. We find that they have compassion for those people who are suffering. So that is based on their feelings, and they do a lot of noble initiatives, like they open education centers or schools, they open hospitals, they open orphanages, old age home, blood donation camp. They do so many kinds of compassionate activities, and also they open so many varieties of charitable organizations. So these are all done to help that person who is suffering. In this way, we find that there is a feeling of compassion which is there in their heart, that is expressed by doing such kind of activities. So this kind of or this form of compassion is very good, and it must be done, right? But the level of compassion is for actually the body, and it is not for the soul, because we are trying to help the person who is suffering in this material world, and whatever help we are providing is at the platform of body. Because if we don't have the idea about soul, then how can we help at the level of soul? So this is just like saving the jacket or the dress for the soul, and this and basically the body is just like a dress for the soul. And if we provide compassion just for the body, that means the health which we have given to that person is just like saving the jacket for that person, right? So in comparison just at the bodily level is not enough, or compassion for the bodily level is not enough. It is not actually the best kind of compassion for another person, right? Because we are not going to help the person from dying, right? So when a person is sick, we just don't want to start giving any kind of medication without knowing. Compassion needs to be given to a person in a knowledgeable way. It should not be given in an ignorant way. So then the question comes that what is real compassion? So real compassion is to save the soul from taking another birth in this material world. which is actually full of suffering. So showing real compassion to the soul will end the cycle of birth and death for that soul. So this is done by sharing the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. But in order to share the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, first of all, we need to understand the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, what is given in Bhagavad Gita. And for that, we have to scrutinizingly study the message of Lord Sri Krishna, which is given in this book. Then what will happen is, then the soul will get free. So whatever help we are going to give, or whatever compassion we are going to shower on the soul, is actually going to free the soul from the clutches of Maya, from the clutches of the cycle of birth and death. And the spirit soul then can go to the spiritual world at the end of the life. So that is real compassion. So here we see that what kind of compassion Arjuna is exhibiting. It is at the level of body, and it is Lord Krishna who is going to condemn this in this verse as well as in the later verse. In this verse, in the form of the purport what Srila Prabhupada is saying over here. And Krishna, in the later verses, he is going to, condemn what the thoughts of Arjuna. And then Krishna is going to gradually bring Arjuna's understanding to the concept of real compassion. And that is, real compassion means compassion at the level of spirit soul, not at the level of body. So now if we read the statements which is given by Srila Prabhupada, he is saying, what is real compassion? So he is saying that no one knows where compassion should be applied. So since people don't have knowledge about spirituality, they try to help, which is through their, because their heart has the feeling of compassion, they try to help at bodily level. They do not try to give the real help, which is at the level of soul. So compassion for the dress of a drowning man is senseless. Now this statement will make sense. That if we are trying to save the jacket of the person, so that kind of, that will not really save the person. It's only going to save the body. And that is good, but it is not at really helping that person. So Prabhupada further continues, a man fallen in the ocean of nescience cannot be saved simply by rescuing his outward dress, the gross material body. So if we just save the gross material body, but if we, let the spirit soul suffer, then what kind of compassion it is? So this is not a real compassion, right? So then Prabhupada says the definition of a Shudra. Shudra means one who is not in knowledge. So let's read. One who does not know this and laments for the outward dress is called as Shudra, or one who laments unnecessarily. So they are just lamenting at the platform of body. So therefore the person is known as Shudra. And opposite to Shudra is Brahmana. Brahmana is a person who is not just doing puja or wearing a sacred thread. That is not Brahmana. Brahmana means Brahma Janati iti Brahmana. A person who understands and knows the spiritual knowledge. Brahma means spiritual knowledge. Who knows spiritual knowledge, that person is actually Brahmana. So Brahmana is by qualification, not by birth. So Brahmana's son, we discussed earlier that in earlier sessions, that Brahmana's son not necessarily be a Brahmana, or a doctor, just as the doctor's son is not a doctor. One has to get qualified. So then Prabhupada talks about why Bhagavad Gita was spoken. Arjuna was a Kshatriya and this conduct was not expected from him. So he was a Kshatriya, means Kshatriya are trained. They go to Gurukul, they study under a teacher, and the teacher explains all this kind of, or gives this kind of knowledge. It's supposed to give. So this kind of behavior was not expected from him. Lord Krishna, however, can dissipate the lamentation of an ignorant man, and for this purpose the Bhagavad Gita was sung by him. So we know that Arjuna is actually self-realized, but he was acting like this under the influence of Maya. Krishna actually covered his intelligence and he started behaving like a normal person who doesn't have spiritual knowledge. And the reason was that Krishna could speak Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, and through Arjuna, the knowledge can be given to us. So that was the whole purpose. So what is the role of chapter 2 in self-realization? So this chapter instructs us in self-realization by the analytical study of material body and spirit soul as explained by the Supreme Authority, Lord Sri Krishna. So in this chapter, like the first, from verse number 11 onwards, Krishna will start speaking up to verse number 30. Krishna is going to give the knowledge of soul. Right? He's going to give the knowledge of soul. He's going to discuss the different points or the differences between the body and the soul, and how soul is eternal, how material body is temporary. So he's going to give various examples, and he's going to try to explain this point in different ways. And the basic idea is the soul is eternal, and it is more important than the temporary body. So this realization is possible when one works without attachment to fruitive result and is situated in fixed conception of the real self. So Krishna is going to explain about the difference between body and soul, and one can understand this. So this is the qualification, who can understand this. So this realization is possible for a person who works without attachment to fruitive result and is situated in fixed conception of the real self. Now this is a very important line, because this is a theme of Bhagavad Gita, that one has to work without attachment to fruitive result. Now this term is going to come again and again, fruitive result. So what does it mean? So I have taken this paragraph from Srila Prabhupada's one of the class, and I'm going to read and try to explain what is fruitive result means. So let's forget the first line right now, and then we'll come back to it. So what is that work? He's saying what is that work, means what is the meaning of work. Any work you do, there must be some result. So we do any action for some result, right? Either you do good work or bad work, there is work and there must be some result. So for any work which we do, whether good or bad, there is a result. That is our experience. We cannot do anything which has no result. Right? There is nothing like that, no work like that which has no result. But if that result is offered to God, Krishna, then it is without result. Because we have a result, but now we offer that result to Krishna. Right? So that result doesn't belong to us. So it's as simple as that. So the work is not stopped. So one thing is, you either do the work, you don't do the work. So if you do the work, there is some result. And if the result comes, whether it's a good work or a bad work, you offer the result to Krishna. And when you offer the result to Krishna, it's not yours. Normally we do any work for result, and we want to enjoy that result. So that tendency to enjoy the result is basically fruitive tendency. I want to enjoy the result of my work. And when you want to enjoy the result of the work, then whatever karma which we have done while performing that work, we have to get the reaction for that. And that's how the living entity is trapped in this material world. So I'll repeat this again. But if the result is offered to God Krishna, then it's without result. So that work is not stopped. Just like Arjuna. Arjuna's work was not stopped. He was a fighter, rather he wanted to stop his work. He said, my dear Krishna, what is the use of fighting? So this is what is discussed in chapter number 1. Arjuna is giving as reasons why he doesn't want to fight. They are all my kinsmen. Let them enjoy. I don't want this kingdom. He wanted to become a gentleman without working. No, Prabhupada is saying that without working is work, because he was considering in his own terms. So this is important. Know that without working is also a work, because he was considering his own terms. But when he fought on the advice of Krishna, that is Naishkarmya. So he is explaining the meaning of Naishkarmya, means without result. Of course, it's not without result. Result is there, but we offer that result to Krishna. So it is equivalent to without result. So that term is called as Naishkarmya. Because fighting, suppose Prabhupada is saying, because fighting, suppose Arjuna has killed so many persons, so he is supposed to be under so much tribulation because he has killed so many persons. Because when you kill somebody in the war, then you get reaction of that. So Arjuna was supposed to get, but because that was done for Krishna, that is Naishkarmya. So because Krishna wanted this war, Krishna wanted to re-establish Dharma, and Krishna is desiring Arjuna to fight. So because Arjuna is working just to satisfy Krishna, so then there is no reaction. Even he is killing, there is no reaction. So no result means work which does not produce any reaction. So any action which doesn't produce any reaction, that is Naishkarmya. Other works means somebody who is not doing Naishkarmya, what happens? Other work, just like in this life, those who are working for sense gratification, they are creating another body. So somebody who is working, then that will have result and they want to enjoy the result. So this is the process of sense gratification. I want to enjoy through my senses. That is the purpose of sense gratification. So when we are in that mood, when we work or do any work in that mood, then we are bound by the laws of karma. And that means you have to take another body. After the end of this body, we have to take another body. But if we don't have any karma balance, then what happens? Then we can get out of the clutches of Maya and break the cycle of birth and death. And breaking the cycle of birth and death means we go back to Godhead. So this is the conception of this term fruitive results, and it is going to come again and again. So we must understand what Srila Prabhupada means by this fruitive results. So I'll read the line again. This realization is possible when one works without attachment to fruitive results. So if somebody is working in the platform of Naishkarmyam, or somebody is doing Naishkarma and is situated in the fixed conception of the real self. So this realization is possible for that person. Right? So with this, we'll stop here and then we'll continue our discussion in verse number 2 in the next session. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Gaur Premanande Haribol.